mobile app and Amazon Alexa. Plus, tune in for a Best of Clinton Sports broadcast every Saturday morning at 10. All brought to you by Baum Chevy Buick, Clinton Athletic Boosters, Clinton Community YMCA, and Midstate Eye.
We're a farm store, a family store. Look what I found store. We're a store made for real people and some real beasts. We're a hey neighbor kind of store and an everyday low price store. We're Rural King, and we're working hard to be your favorite store. Check out the huge selection of men's, women's, and kids' Wrangler clothing at the lowest prices every day, like these Wrangler Retro Bootcut jeans for just $49.99.
You're listening to The Morning Show on the Big 1520 across Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. On the phone with me, Dr. Sheila Greenwood is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Good morning, Dr. Greenwood. How are you today?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for taking time with us. By the way, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for coming on with us. It's always good to have you. And I can't believe it, Dr. Greenwood. We're down to our last small handful of visits together, and retirement is on the horizon for you. I always keep forgetting about that with our time together these days.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly the first 6 months of this, well, not 6 months of school year, but 6 months of the last calendar year went, and here we are. We're in the middle of January already, so it's flying by. And I've, with being here 3 days a week, that kind of thing, it makes for interesting time.
Sure.
Let's just leave it at that.
Well, how is the transition going? Are you and forgive me, I'm blanking on the gal's name out of Monticello that's going to be taking over for you, but how is that transition going to this point?
Going well. Mary Vogt is going to
right.
be the superintendent who's going to fill this chair in a few months, and she's actually coming over tomorrow afternoon and going to spend some time with us. And I think we're just going to do a little bit of that type of transitioning with her stopping by for visits. I'm collecting some different things, some artifacts for her and some books and things like that, just to kind of try to help with her first superintendent position and help her get used to Bement and some of the things that we do, and try to share with her some of our strengths, and also challenge her to, hey, this is going to be your baby, and so you need to make it your own, and look and see where there's any weaknesses that you think that bring the district along, and keep it moving in the right direction.
Well, I know you well enough, Dr. Greenwood, to know that you will have Mrs. Vogt very prepared. There will be very few stones unturned, if any unturned, and she'll be well on her way to doing just that, I'm sure, just given the, like I said, knowing you and the nature of just how thorough you are and prepared you always are. So we'll look forward to that transition when it comes time. But, speaking of transitions, Dr. Greenwood, I saw that earlier, I know we're 11 days into the new year, but, earlier in the year, if you will, the State Board of Education put out guidance that they were going to adjust the quarantine guidance to reflect what the CDC recently put out. However, it's been nearly a week, and maybe even maybe more than a week that they put that out there, and still no guidance. And, I think that's kind of par for the course for this type of, for the last couple of years. If we've learned anything about the state of Illinois, they tend to lag in their, updated guidance on COVID and such. And so from what I can surmise, many of your peers around Central Illinois and even the state of Illinois are just kind of taking up their own guidance related to COVID and the quarantining of students. What's going on here?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Seth. It's been very frustrating, to say the least, with trying to deal with the different agencies, and they just don't get their stuff together. And so it comes from one place, and then you have a retraction. It comes from another place. And so they don't all get their heads together and get their heads in the game. And it really makes it so difficult for us as we try to navigate through all this and do the right thing and that type of thing. So when the CDC came out with their new guidance, everybody was like, all right, so we're going to go to 5 days. And then the next day it comes out and says, that's for the general public, but not for school districts. So then we're backtracked. So then the IDPH comes out in favor of it. some health departments, local health departments are more helpful than others. And then, so ISBE says, okay, this is great guidance, but we're going to give you the real ISBE, Illinois State Board of Education guidance. It's going to be forthcoming. And like you said, Seth, I mean, we have waited and waited, and we're done waiting. So I know a lot of my colleagues have already taken this step and made it official today, and we're going to make it official today as well and get the word out to our stakeholders, our parents and guardians and staff and that kind of thing, that we're going to move ahead with the 5-day quarantine. And we just, we're just tired of waiting, and we can't keep waiting for that when all the other parties are involved. The professional agencies are saying this is the right thing to do. So we're going to make that move. And you know what, if ISBE comes back later and says something, I think they're going to have a lot of upset superintendents and school leaders on their hands.
So a couple of directions I want to take this, Dr. Greenwood, and I saw a really interesting take on social media from one of your peers, and forgive me, I don't remember who it was, but the basic sentiment was, it's frustrating for parents already having to send healthy kids home to quarantine for whatever it was, 10 days or whatever,
Right.
It was already frustrating them having to keep their healthy kids home, and for the last year and a half, we know that when you send a healthy kid home to quarantine because of exposure to COVID, rarely, if ever, do they test positive for COVID. So that was frustration number one. Added on top of that, in the last, 2.5 weeks with the CDC guidance change, now the CDC says 5 days. However, ISBE and Illinois schools are not falling in line with that. That was adding more frustration to the situation. What did you find there with your community?
I mean, I think our community has been very patient with us trying to navigate this, because I feel like they understand you're between a rock and a hard place when you're waiting on ISBE to make a decision and to stay current with what, the professional organizations are saying. And this is just kind of the last straw for a lot of us, because we've tried to be patient, we've tried to wait, and we're just not going to wait anymore. We just have to move on and move the needle in that direction. And yeah, it's just been very frustrating. My heart goes out to the parents, and like we had talked about before, Seth, now with, I've gone through this now with my own children, and quarantining with having been a close contact at school. And so it's very difficult. I think the 5-day will be a little better situation. Hopefully we don't see any increases in positivity with that. And I think as long as they follow it the way they've got it laid out, I think we're going to be fine.
Well, and this may speak to the, maybe more my own personal frustrations, but, the fact that so many schools are doing this independently before guidance comes out, that just to me says, any sort of teeth behind the guidance given by ISBE and IDPH and whatever other entity you want to put out there, that just to me says none of this has any teeth. So why not just do whatever you feel is best for your community and your school district? I mean, I'm sure you're going to follow that guidance of 5 days, and that's, for a lot of places that's going to be best. But this spills into so many other things, whether it's quarantine, whether it's masks, whether it's distancing. It just feels like all of this continues to show that there's just no teeth behind any of this. Why not just do your own thing? Does that make sense? I hope that's a fair question, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. And I think part of the problem is then whenever ISBE does come out with some sort of direction, if it goes against anything that we've learned from the CDC, the IDPH, or local health departments, then they want, then there's some threats of action taken against the school districts. But we're at a point in all of this. I mean, we're at 22 months in, basically, of this same situation. And I feel like that they've just dropped the ball on it. So I don't see how they could come back and have any teeth with any of this now, with everybody moving ahead with the 5-day when they've been sitting on it this period of time. So I don't think there's anything they're going to be able to say or do that's going to make anybody change back at this point.
And again, to that end, and I don't know if this is a conversation being had in your community by your board or anything of that nature, but is there consideration to say, you know what, this is all arbitrary. It's all, baseless in terms of just like I said, the amount of, the repercussions and those sorts of things. Court battles are being lost by the state, and, all these things are kind of going against them. At this point, what do districts have to lose to start to just say, you know what, we're over this, we're going to do what's best for us, and kind of go that direction, I guess?
Yeah, and I think this has been a small step in that direction, Seth, just because, you risk whatever they're going to say, but at the same time, we feel like this is the right thing to do, and it's still taking some precautions, but it's not causing that long-term isolation with the kids and the staff. It keeps people back in school, which is where we want them to be. And so we feel like this is a little step of us just kind of taking some local control. And I think my colleagues would say the same thing.
Gotcha. Again, Dr. Sheila Greenwood is our guest on the phone this morning, superintendent of Bement Schools. And I can't believe it, Dr. Greenwood, but that was about 10 minutes and we need a break already. So
Okay.
In the meantime, where do folks go to keep up with, the latest guidance that's going to be forthcoming for Bement Schools regarding quarantine and just all things Bement Schools? I know you do a lot to put out what's happening in your classrooms and the programs and all of that. How about those things?
Okay, so to follow us on Twitter, we're #Bement Bulldogs. We have a Facebook page, which is Bement CUSD5, and our website, which we're keeping up to date constantly, which is a good source I think people forget about, is bementschools.org. So check us out.
Dr. Sheila Greenwood, superintendent of Bement Schools, is my guest on the phone, and we've got a lot more with her coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
The DeWitt Piatt Bi-County Health Department encourages you to get vaccinated for the winter flu seasons ahead. Flu shots are available at both their Clinton and Monticello locations. Find out more by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com, funded by the Illinois Department of Public Health.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
WHOW, the Big 1520 AM, 92.3 FM, and 106.5 FM across central Illinois is promoting our great communities again this January. It's the WHOW Hometown Tour, doing our live broadcast with community officials and leaders on Wednesday, January 12th from 9 to 10 in the morning. Listen as we interview local officials and talk about the community pride that Lincoln has when the WHOW Hometown Tour live broadcast airs Wednesday, January 12th from 9 to 10 a.m. This WHOW Hometown Tour stop is brought to you by Peasley Funeral Home. Visit their website at PeasleyFuneralHomes.com. Lincoln Printers. For more information, visit their website at LincolnPrintersInc.com. Carpet House. Go to their website at thecarpethouselincolnil.com. Me Realty. Check out their website at merealty.com for more information.
Meet FarmOp Capital, the lender who has reinvented operating loans by basing them on your ability to produce, not how much land you own. They offer unique terms, including early access to funds that give you the power of cash buying and the ability to market your crop when the time is right. Start exploring all the what-ifs you've ever imagined for your business at farmopcapital.com today. This is The Morning Show on 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guest on the phone is Dr. Sheila Greenwood, superintendent of Bement Schools. And Dr. Greenwood, we were catching up in the break there a little bit about, just continued frustration around the COVID situation. And you were mentioning to me a frustration regarding testing of kids and a program that you basically had ready to go, but because tests aren't available, you can't really launch this program. What's going on there?
Well, we took all the steps necessary, which was quite a few hoops to jump through, quite honestly, to get a CLIA lab waiver. and then we had to have standing orders from a physician to be able to do the tests. And then we went through some training for that as well. And we put in to get some tests because Kirby Hospital has been so good to us and the other schools in the area for over a year. And they provided free testing for our students and staff who needed to get tested to get back into school. And so since that ended at Christmas, so we put in to start doing this ourselves. So we were supposed to have 100 tests delivered here at the very beginning of January, right after Christmas break. And we were notified that we wouldn't get any tests and that we were going to be put on a waiting list, and basically with not much hope of getting those tests. So the tests were going to go to other places and schools that were doing the shield testing, which the shield testing has turned out to be a pretty big bust for most of those schools that are doing that. But
oh, really?
Anyway, yeah, so we're just, I mean, that's just another frustration for us. You know, we bought the PPE, we had rooms set aside, we had procedures in place. We even sent home a parent consent, completely voluntary, for any parents that wanted their child to be tested so that they could be back in school the next day. So we did all that legwork, and then last minute, no tests.
Well, that is frustrating.
Very much so, because we're overloaded. Our school nurse, bless her heart, Michelle Soyce, she's done a tremendous job, and probably should put a statue up of her on the playground somewhere, but it's just been so much for her to navigate and try to work through. And now the local health departments in the state are no longer doing the close contact tracing. So that's been left up to the schools too. So
yeah.
I think we should all get like honorary degrees in epidemiology.
Oh my gosh. No doubt. It has been, it's been frustrating for sure. So what does all of that mean then for, like, do you just kind of scrap the program, I guess? Like, or are you going to are you just going to wait it out until you get those tests? Like, what's the next step, I guess, with all of that frustration in mind?
Yeah, well, I think we're just looking at having it on a pause until we get those tests. And as soon as we get those tests, we'll be notifying everybody. And we plan to continue with our plan, if at all possible, if we can get our hands on some of those tests. But in the meantime, it's caused our families to have to go find alternative testing sites to go and do that. And now with so many people testing, the turnaround time is not what we would like for it to be.
Right.
So it's been frustrating for the school district. It's also frustrating for the parents and caregivers. And, it's just one more thing. And I just, I think we're tired of the just one more thing.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you for sure. Well, Dr. Greenwood, let's shift gears in our final moments together and talk about something other than COVID. And let's talk some facilities things going on in Bement. What do you have on the radar these days?
Well, we're staying nice and toasty. We got a couple new boilers installed, so that's been good. Just finishing up that project. We got a replacement window project for the high school is going to start taking place as soon as the weather gets warm. And really, I've pretty much got Mary Vogt set up here. I mean, her facilities are not going to be a concern. We've done all the necessary upgrades for this building. We have some aging buildings, and so now we're really going to be in really good shape with the envelope of the school and the major workings of the school. So hopefully that'll be one less thing for her to worry about.
Absolutely. Well, and that's, of course, if you don't have good facilities, I mean, that just spills into so many other aspects of not just the education process, but the attractiveness of the district and all those things. So that's, just kind of taking care of all of that for her. That's, and you talk about one more thing, especially as it relates to COVID, I'm sure for a new superintendent and a first-time superintendent, there's probably going to be a lot of those one more thing, that seems to come up in that first year. So that one less headache there is going to be nice.
Yeah, there's always going to be what you don't know what you don't know.
True.
It's always going to be there with any new job.
Absolutely. Very good. Well, Dr. Greenwood, still some time together here. What else is happening in Bement schools? How are the kids doing? What's curriculum like these days? How are the progress of the students academically? What's going on there?
I'll tell you, we have started offering a program for the kids who are a little bit behind partly because of the COVID, outbreak and that kind of thing. And so we have some free tutoring going on with those kids that have been identified. And that's going to be a good thing, I think, to help those kids. I think we have 4 teachers that are involved in providing the tutoring for that. And that's going to be, right now we're doing it at the elementary and middle school, but it'll also be available for high school kids as well. And so taking part in that. Otherwise, middle school sports are kind of starting to wind down a little bit. High school sports are going crazy and picking up and having some success with that with our high school basketball team.
Yeah, I saw CGB got some state recognition in terms of they got some votes in the latest polling, I do believe.
Yeah, that's nice. We like to hear that because it's in small school districts, it's cyclical. So whenever you get that chance to get some pub, you try to jump on it and enjoy it.
Sure, very good. Well, I've been watching or trying to at least keep tabs of the Broncos and what they're doing. So very good. Yeah, Dr. Greenwood, about a minute left here with you this morning. What's to come in the month ahead in Bement schools? Anything coming up as the second semester kind of starts roaring into high gear?
Well, we'll be starting to see some Scholastic Bowl things going on. We have our art club is been very busy doing some fundraising and things like that. And yeah, we're just kind of in that, you hate to say it though, the quiet break of winter, you know, when things are quiet, because you know how things start in March and April and things start to really pick up some pace. And so we will be having a teacher appreciation night on February 1st. That'll be at a boys basketball game in Cerro Gordo. And it's really nice because the athletes all get to recognize a teacher if they would like to. So that's always a really nice night to do that.
Very good. Very good. Well, Dr. Greenwood, it is always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking time with us today, and Happy New Year to you. Dr. Sheila Greenwood, Superintendent of Bement Schools. Network News is now.